right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ina Montgomery. I am the Executive Director of Urban Tech, where TEC is the acronym for Technology Empowered Communities. Want to acknowledge the other coalition members, Tom Esselman, PCs for People. I don't see Aaron Deacon. However, I do see he's traveling. Two of his cohorts, Leslie Scott and William Crumpler, if you could wave. And then
John Fitzpatrick.
What's that?
And John Fitzpatrick.
John Fitzpatrick, thank you. Carrie Coogan, looks like she's in motion. And I think that's, I forget. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here.
I think that's it. I think we're trying something new today, according to Wendy Pearson, who represents the Kansas City Public Library. If you could go into chat, she's got a sign-in sheet. And so we're trying that, like I said, for the first time today. So make sure you sign your name and we'll see how that works. And if it works right, I guess we'll start that from now on. This session, however, is being recorded, just to make you aware of that. And let me see, got to go to my screen share. All right, we start each of our meetings with the mission and vision of the coalition. So you can look at that here. And as I said before, the steering council, Carrie Coogan with the Public Library, Aaron Deacon, KC Digital Drive, Tom Esselman, PCs for People, and myself, Ina Montgomery, Urban Tech. So we would like to know, are you currently a member? You can go to the digitalinclusionkc.org. Membership is free. We just simply ask that you sign up either as an individual or your organization so we can grow the coalition. And the coalition, just to mention, is the only form of clearinghouse of exchange of digital inclusion of ideas, information sharing, announcements. And so this is the place to be every first Friday. Again, membership is free, but if you would like to know what's going on in the digital community, if you would like to know about digital equity, this is the place that you can come to find out and or ask questions about any needs that you may have. You can connect with us socially, of course, by way of email, online, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we like likes, so feel free to go and connect with us socially and let us know what you think or make comments. Or if you're doing something, you definitely want to do the Twitter and include us with the @include_KC. So today we have on the agenda, we're going to have a member update. So this is something that we started to start highlighting some of the coalition members. And so we could take a deep dive into what that particular organization is doing in regards to digital literacy. So today we're going to have Jessica Welch of the Phoenix family speak. And then for our feature presentations, we're going to have Melinda Stanley, who's the interim director of the Office of Broadband Development in Kansas, Department of Commerce, and then BJ Tanksley, who is currently new in for a couple of months as the director of Missouri Office of Broadband Development. So we'll look forward to hearing from them, and then we'll conclude, as always, with our community announcements. It's got that message. So Jessica Welch.
Hello.
Are you? Let me stop sharing, and there you are.
Okay.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So you're going to
Great.
give us some information
Yeah.
about Phoenix family. Did you have any slides to
Absolutely.
share?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd let you know a little bit more about Phoenix Family in general, and then talk about our work around digital literacy. So I'm the program manager at Phoenix Family, and what we do is we formally contract with owners of affordable housing communities to provide supportive services to the residents right there where they live. And so at 34 different affordable housing communities, we have at least one staff member right there present. They have an office located right there in the community. We really try to take away that barrier of transportation, and it helps us build strong rapport and relationships with the residents as well, being right there. Our goals are really to help stabilize folks who might be experiencing any kind of crises or have any basic needs, and then really try to help them thrive as well. So we do that in a few different ways. We have on-site pantries, food pantries, hygiene pantries, diapers, all of those things right there, again, where people live. We work closely with the property management companies to intervene if there's lease violations. So hopefully we can prevent those from turning into evictions. And we also do a lot of, education, a lot of benefits applications. We do, we help people apply to the Affordable Connectivity Program, for sure, is one of those benefit programs. We also have, we have what we call 3 programs. So there's multifamily communities where families mostly live. And then there's communities where people 62 and older, or people 55 and older, or with a disability live. And we refer to those as our senior communities. So we have, we serve older adults, we serve people with disabilities, we serve families, we serve youth. We have an after-school program called Hike, and that is really literacy focused. Most of our kids read 6 months to 2 years below reading level. And so they're paired with a volunteer reading coach to do individualized reading lessons. And I know, Miss Ina, you're going to come out to our communities this summer to do some STEAM programming at our communities. So we're excited to have you out. We also have a new component to our Families First program. We have learned that we're pretty good at intervening in crises, helping families get stabilized, but then it's really hard to keep following that continuum to help them grow. So we've added a life coach as a new position. They're going to help residents identify goals and follow goals that will hopefully lead them to a path to leaving poverty. So we're really excited about that and looking to build new partnerships around that. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our really strong partnership with the Kansas City Public Library. We've been working with Wendy and Megan for several years. I see your thumbs up. And in fact, Megan at the end of June is going to start some digital literacy programming at one of our senior communities, Nowlin Hall, which is in the Northeast, especially around smartphones, because our residents have these government cell phones and they don't know how to use them. And so going through some basic pieces there to help them use those. She's been really integral in training our staff into how to help our residents learn more about technology, especially during the pandemic. We were able to get some tablets, and we were able to get some hotspots for checkout with Megan as well at the time, because a lot of our buildings too, even if they have wireless internet or can get it from the property management company, it's really hard to access throughout the building. So that's a little bit in a nutshell about us. We do have on-site computer labs. Some are functioning better than others, but we do have tablets available too. But of course, the tricky part's always the internet, depending on the community and the space that we have available to use. I think that's most of what I wanted to share. Does anybody have any questions?
And I unfortunately
Thank
just
you.
got to, to pull you up.
Thank
Pull
you.
you up
Appreciate
as you
that.
talk. Yeah, is there anything in particular you would like me to show on the website?
Yeah, I think any of this is great. Yeah, Hike is our after-school program. Families First is our program that helps stabilize our families and that we're adding a life coach component to. So we can help people. Yes, we used to work with Connecting for Good when they were Connecting for Good, or PCs for People when you're Connecting for Good, quite a bit with our on-site computer labs. Absolutely. Worked very closely with you all. So, and we're always looking to build relationships with new partnerships. Sometimes, you know, we get pretty creative and how we can get folks engaged, residents engaged. We use over, 200 some, probably close to 400 partnerships every quarter. So whether referral agencies or partnerships to come out on site. Yes, this is more information about our Hike program that was helped founded by Trent Green. So yes, thanks for sharing that. And yes, we're always looking for more volunteers, probably like everybody else, to help carry out our mission.
And I think John Fitzpatrick has his hand raised. I don't know if you can see that
John.
when you're doing this.
And we worked with
Oh,
John for the Internet Access Program.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I really am amazed at all the things that Phoenix Family is able to do, and really laud the organization for their success and their commitment. One of the things I found very exciting in what you were saying this morning was about the program to help people with smartphones. It's something that I've been doing with community health workers to help them have the ability, for instance, to help people log into their patient portal, which is essentially their electronic records are available from their provider online, and they can look at results that they've had and those kinds of things. And so it would be really great if, and I'd be happy to work with you on how we might put in a module within that smartphone learning program to help people get connected to their patient portals. I think that would be really, really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And Megan, maybe that's something we can figure out how to work into. I know our residents, especially, all of our residents, but Nowlin Hall residents definitely have a need to be able to more closely manage their own health care and to have that information at their fingertips.
And you may find also, and this is a part that we work with the community health workers on as well, is that people may be getting things like monitoring applications from their providers. And so they'll need to know how to download an app onto their phone and that sort of thing. So health apps in general may be rising in importance.
Yeah, I'm sure if, most of our residents, especially at Nowlin Hall, if they are getting some communication from their doctor on their portal, they probably aren't seeing it. And I know sometimes there could be surveys going out or, questions or just refills on medication. Those the notes, I mean, how much more streamlined could that be?
Also, one area we found important was people having the ability to go back and refer to their discharge instructions from their previous visit, so that, if they've lost the sheet of paper or whatever, they still have a way to go back and refer to that. And that's been very valuable.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay, yes, let's follow up more, and maybe we can loop Megan in since she's doing some of the training with our residents and figure out how we can expand that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd be
that's
happy
awesome.
to
Thank you.
help where I can.
Thank you. And then I'm seeing some chats coming in from Leslie and from Tom. That's great.
I see Wendy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what John said about how amazed I am at the services and programming that you guys do. I've always admired your work, and we've been so fortunate to reach so many people by kind of piggybacking on your existing schedule. So for example, I know you do diaper distribution, and then you partner with harvesters. And so, some of our most successful sessions have been kind of setting up in the lobby while you have other agencies coming in, and then we kind of catch families and individuals as they come down. And it's just been really neat to watch, people coming down for food, then realizing we are there, and they sit down with me and we do a job resume or an application. And then I come back the next month and they've gotten the job. And it's just such a great, rewarding experience to get to know these residents. And I just love the holistic approach that you guys offer these families. It's just been amazing. So shout out to you.
Thank you. Well, we obviously couldn't do it on our own. I mean, we have one staff for each one of these communities. So having you there, and yes, bundling of services, if we can get them down for food, then we have other providers come and chat about what they have available. So yes, that's been very successful, and always happy to have you out.
Leslie, you had your hand up.
I do. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your ACP sign up experience, any lessons that you might have learned along the way that you could share for those of us who are doing this work.
Sure. I think the challenges are always, for some residents, the credit isn't enough to help pay for that service, especially if the property management company only contracts with certain service providers. And so they're
They
kind of
can't do that anymore, by the
can't?
way.
Okay, good to know, because
Mhm.
that was running into a,
Yeah, the
I'm making a
FCC
note.
just did a ruling on that, so we can talk
Very
offline
good.
about that.
Yes, please.
And
because that is an
also,
area.
we can help with any difference up to $75 a month for
Okay.
6 months. So I will also connect with you about that.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's totally fine. I needed to know that information, so thank you. Yes, I think just all the moving pieces, and for our residents who, are overwhelmed by processes and stuff, I think and it's a learning process for all of us. So I think the different pieces and working with the providers, but we're starting to get it down a little bit more. It's really helpful that, if they're getting food stamps or, that it just kind of bypasses pretty quickly into the next step. So that is very helpful. Yeah, there's some communities that have been helping residents apply more than others. There are communities like East Hills Village, which is off of 71 and 75th Street, where they just kind of seem to be in this zone where it seems like even if we do get internet for them, if they try to use wireless internet, like whatever phone provider we use out there, whatever internet, it's just like in this kind of dead zone. And we've been looking at that forever. And it's just, it's a safety issue to say the least, but it's kind of a dead zone there for access. So there's those sort of structural obstacles too that we've tried to get creative and work on as well. So,
Well, I'm working on an ACP sign up manual, so I can talk with you offline and
Yeah,
see if you'd be interested
absolutely.
in sort of going through that and vetting it for me. I'd love to have your review.
Absolutely. I would love to help. And then I am just kind of writing down notes. Tom, I see your note too, so I will follow up with you for sure. This is great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being a great coalition member, and thank you for the work that you guys are doing there.
Absolutely.
Looks like, are there any other questions for Jessica? All right, did you Is your contact information in chat in case they want to reach you?
I'll put that in. That's a great idea.
Yeah, if you can put that in, that'd be good. And then for those who came in late, Wendy Pearson of the KC Public Library has set up a sign-in sheet. I see she's posting it several times. So this is something new. This is the first time that we're trying. Please go into chat and sign the sign-in sheet. I don't know how that's going. Hopefully well. And if it goes well, we will continue to use that link and that tool so we can track who actually attends the meetings. All right, any questions? All right, moving on to our feature presenters for this morning. Again, we've got Melinda Stanley of the Office of Broadband Development at the Kansas Department of Commerce. And then we have BJ Tanksley, I'm hoping that I'm saying your name correctly, Director of the Missouri Office of Broadband Development. And as in life, we always say ladies first, if you don't mind. So Melinda Stanley, are you ready?
I actually don't see her on the call. I'm gonna make sure that we got her the information.
Okay, if you could do that, please. Yeah, because I was looking for her name. I just figured she was on another page. So while you're doing that, we will go on to BJ Tanksley. Am I saying that correct?
You got it right.
All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, I think I have the ability to share my screen, correct?
I don't know. Does he,
Yes.
Wendy?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. You should
Alright.
have that.
Well, let me get things straightened up over here.
Okay.
There we go. Right. Let's go. All right, is everybody seeing the screen at this point?
Yes.
All right, great. Just making sure. Thank you all for allowing me to visit a little bit today. I think I visited with this group before, but this is a little update from our office. For those who I haven't met, I am BJ Tanksley. I am the director of the Office of Broadband inside of the Department of Economic Development. Been in this role for about 4.5 months at this point. So still excited to be here. There's a lot going on and a lot of changes since the legislative session wrapped up. For everyone on the call to know, if you haven't been or would like to be included, we do monthly updates as well. We usually try to host those on the last Friday of every month at 1 p.m. The last one ran into a holiday weekend, so we had a little lighter attendance than we have before. But if anybody wants to be included in those, you can go to the ded.mo.gov/ARPA page and then sign up for broadband updates there. But with that, I'll jump through. Got a few slides here. Won't spend a whole lot of time on any one of them, but just wanted to share with you a few of the things that are going on with us. You've seen me. You don't need much of what we're going to talk about, but here's a few things we're going to hit on. Legislative update from the end of the Missouri legislative session, kind of what's going on with our office a little bit in reaction to the changes we saw there. And then also the biggest news from our office, which is we just rolled out our draft guidelines for our ARPA funded broadband infrastructure program. So that's a little highlight of what we're going through. Inside the Missouri legislative session, obviously broadband was one of the hot topics. There were several things going on, but one of our big legislative leaders on broadband related subjects is Representative Lewis Riggs, and he led an effort to put together an omnibus broadband bill. There were a number of provisions included in that bill. And eventually those things, some stayed, some were reformed, and some didn't make it. But in the end, we did pass a number of broadband provisions inside of Senate Bill 820, which was truly agreed and finally passed by the legislature. Has not been signed by the governor yet, but he has until mid to late July to sign things. Where he can sign, veto, or they go into effect without his signature. Including in the bill were provisions for the state to attempt to hold funding in the state of Missouri, meaning if a federal award was given to the state and then that provider defaulted on that award, that we would try to hold that. Now, I think that will be a tough effort to accomplish, but we will. I think it does show, if the bill is signed, I think there is you can make the argument that the federal government showed that there was a need here, and that need still needs to be addressed, whether it's that provider that can or someone else that can. Another one was to try to bring improved access inside of the Capitol building. There was a funding for that as well. If you visited our Capitol, you know there are strong gaps even within our big, beautiful limestone Capitol where service is not great, but it does reflect the need of, it is an actual need. And then there was a provision related to vertical real estate or vertical assets, and making it clear that local governments and subdivisions of the state can use their vertical assets for deployment. This is something that he had heard from locations, whether they didn't feel comfortable, whether it was a tower that was locally owned for emergency services. Tall buildings can be used at this point. Water towers, in some cases, are used as a tower to deploy services. And this was to add clarity that that can be done. And so that was included in the bill. And then probably one of the more meaningful provisions was to increase the speed definitions for the statutory broadband plan, which was drawing in line with our ARPA guidelines, which is saying that areas without access to 100 by 20 service are considered unserved, and those without access to 25/3 are now considered unserved. That's raising from that, I say it's old, but it's not that old, standards of 10.1 and 25/3 being those kind of gaps. But this seems to be the way the conversation is going, and that we would prioritize deployment of 100 by 100 speeds, or the federal definition if the federal definition were higher than that. So just some big changes you saw there. We also added clawback provisions at the state level, and for the state to require service maps of providers taking part in our programming. This would be a piece to help us build maps of the state of what providers are where, and enable us to make smart decisions as we move forward as a state. So has not been signed, but that is sitting on the governor's desk, awaiting his action. There are a number of other provisions, including in the bill. So if he does or does not sign it, it may or may not be related to the actual broadband provisions, as often happens. This was one of the many larger bills with many provisions late in the year that did make it across the finish line. The biggest conversation in the Capitol clearly this year was the funding. The budget overall was a major piece. We went into the session talking about a $400 million plan for broadband, which included that's what you see on the left-hand side of the screen with our request level of funding, looking at broadband infrastructure, cell towers, digital literacy, and affordability, as well as capacity for our office. Through the process, that was changed. Obviously, the title of this group is clear of kind of our focus here. But want to see, as you look to the right, that is the final funding where we did secure almost $300 million. It was not surprising that a $400 million pot of funding for any subject would be subject to other priorities being measured against that. And that's ultimately what happened, where we ended up seeing the infrastructure side of the broadband funding being funded, although some at a reduced level, where you see our broadband infrastructure will be funded at the $250 million level. The cell tower program was reduced to 20 million. We did get to hold the whole capacity, and that will come into play here in just 1 second, where you'll see we're still going to be able to do a lot of the things we plan to do. We're just going to do them differently. And then they did add a pole replacement fund of 15 million. Now that will play with our broadband infrastructure grant. And so you're seeing a total of somewhere in the neighborhood of 265 million in actual infrastructure funding. We had hoped to fully engage in affordability programming and digital literacy programming right out of the gate. I will say that through the conversations in the Capitol, we fully advocated for that. But I think legislators started seeing conversations of what was coming with IIJA and DEA programming. and said, hey, there's going to be a lot of funds for that coming. And well, it wasn't our priority, but then made the choice to move away from funding those things. So usually we will see some dramatic differences. But what that is going to allow us to do is those staff, by still having the capacity, those staff members who were going to be engaging in those activities will now be fully taking part in IIJA, BEAD, and DEA programming and planning for those efforts. If you're following this conversation at the national level, you have heard a lot of conversation of IIJA, which includes two different programs. We'll look at the first one or the bigger one first, which is the BEAD, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Act. I think I got that one right. The acronyms escape me a little bit. But this is going to offer a huge amount of funding for the state. You're looking at least $100 million for every state and territory. And then on top of that, we will receive additional funding based on the need of the state. Now, the slide you see here was actually produced by NTIA, who will be facilitating the programming. And then you will see coming up a kind of a timeline of those. The next included in that is digital equity, or the DEA programming. That's what you'll hear me refer to it a lot as, which includes another tranche of funding largely focused on digital inclusion programmings and digital equity efforts. So we will see a lot of work in that as well, and excited about where we're going with that. What that change in focus is going to allow us to do is put our team members who are going to be working on our ARPA funding programming and really making sure we have strong planning for the funds that will come through these. So we will still be fully engaging with people like you all that are working in this effort. As I've joked, unfortunately, we just won't be bringing as many dollars with us for the first visit. And we had hoped to be doing so, and funding programming. We won't have that funding side of it for a while, but we still will be engaging with you, talking about the things that work in your communities, talking about the challenges you face, and how we can use these next two programs to really address those. With that, I'll jump to the BEAD program. The real thing to highlight here is this is a snapshot of the timeline for BEAD. Again, if you've heard some of the highlights, I think about 40 states have already signed on for their letters of intent for BEAD. Missouri is not one of those. And the reason for that is we have really good news here at our office, where we are going to be adding 2 team members next week. Very excited about those. There's going to be a project manager and a community development specialist. Those are coming on first of next week. The third of that team is coming on August 1st. A great team that is going to focus on these efforts. I wanted them that are here coming in next week to be able to take part in this program from beginning to end. And so we will be getting that taken care of in our letter in very quickly. But I wanted those new team members to be a part of that process. But you'll see we have letters of intent due in July. And then we'll have about 270 days to develop a 5-year plan. Now, this is the beginning of a multi-step process of developing a plan to bring access to everyone. They're calling it the Internet for All, and they're going to be sending us $5 million to help develop this plan. So there will be a lot of effort going on from our office to visit with you all, visit with groups across the state to make sure that we're taking that in. It has been very clear in every conversation that the NTIA has had about this, that community involvement will be vital to this process. And we fully intend for that to be not just because it's part of it, but to make sure that we develop a plan that works for everybody, rural, urban, and across all spectrums. So we're excited about that. And you will see that coming soon thereafter. We should get the funds. It doesn't show what the gap in when we will get the funds, but I assume late summer, we will probably have those funds in hand to start working on that. That team will make sure that we get our grant program rolling and then fully engage in this. And so you will see a lot of activity from our office for this front. At the same time, there is the DEA program, which also offers $2.7 billion in funding, will be shared across the states based off a similar timeline where we will get our planning application in prior to mid-July, and then we have 1 year to put together our plan. So these funds will actually start to roll out probably before the infrastructure funds of the BEAD program do, but we will really be able to put together a plan and then fully engage in this as well. And this is, again, going to be dependent on community involvement, visiting with those who already work in this space, and then putting together a plan to make sure that we're addressing the digital literacy side of the equation as well as the access side of it. So very excited about the work we can do, excited to have these team members coming on. Don't be surprised if you see us adding capacity in order to be able to, meaning working with others, libraries, universities, others across the spectrum to make sure that we're doing this in a smart way as we engage communities across the state to do so. And then the biggest news from our office is that we released our broadband infrastructure program guidelines. Those were posted Tuesday of this week, and they are open for public comment. I added here that you can find them at the ded.mo.gov/ARPA webpage. And this would be a great chance for anyone on the call that's interested. Please go take a look at these and dive in, and then let us know what we got right and what we got wrong. And the things that we need to take a look at prior to final guidelines. And we are excited about where we're going with this, the opportunity we have to deploy over $250 million in infrastructure. We know the gap is bigger than that of those that don't have access, but this is going to be a strong first step in trying to bring access to those that don't have it. This is just a little snapshot. It does have the updated timeline of the actual program, of a May release of draft guidelines. In June 24th is going to be our deadline to have the final guidelines put out. And then we will have a July 15th opening for applications in order to have at the very latest, mid-November release of awards. So we're excited about where we're going with that, and a lot of work to be done here at our office. Just quickly, I'm going to run through a couple things. Eligible applicants are providers, local governments, communities, nonprofits that can do this type of work. So it goes across the spectrum of eligible applicants. One thing that is interesting with this programming is we are saying everybody must offer a low-cost option. What's the point of bringing service if no one can afford it? It has to be affordable to the community it's going to. So keep that in mind. And if you see projects coming about that don't hit that gap, make sure you bring it to our attention. Eligible projects. Another interesting part when it came to ARPA funding was ARPA funding, and the Capital Projects Fund specifically did not reference the unserved and underserved nature quite as much as it did talking about critical need, of reaching communities of critical need. So that will be a threshold that our providers aren't as familiar with, but trying to make sure we are getting these services to the areas of need, meaning historically disadvantaged households and communities and poverty rates and others. We are going to be looking at a different criteria as well as that access to services currently. So that's something, and we have to make sure we have local support for these projects. So we are going to still be looking to hit those unserved and underserved areas, but we're adding a new layer to that conversation for our providers to consider. Service has to be quality. We are looking to deploy services that can bring at least 100 by 100 service. Those that can't bring that have to be scalable to that level. So you're really looking to bring quality service when we're bringing these, so we're not having to go back again. We will prioritize fiber investment, and the reason for that is that's what the guidelines said. Capital projects funds and all ARPA guidelines prioritize fiber and achieving last mile connections, really trying to bring those last mile connections. We can fund middle mile, but they have to have associated last mile connections with them. And then matching funds. We know that some projects do work well with matching funds and others do not, but we want to try to leverage other funds where as much as possible, and we will be providing bonus points for local governments who are spending their funds to support these projects. It's another part of that local support part of the conversation, and we think there's a lot of opportunity here to grow what is a $250 million pot. Let's make it 300 by making sure that we're getting as much done as we can by putting these dollars together. And then following that, that's it for the, and I think is important for your group related to the grant program. I'd be happy to answer questions. But we also will be rolling out our cell towers program. We're looking at a July, August applicant or a guidelines window, and then a late winter rollout of that. For some, this isn't an issue, but for rural areas of the state, your only connection is through a wireless connection. And if you have bad cell service, then you really have nothing. This really comes into play when we talk about emergency services and trying to make sure that we're using kind of that same standard of the broadband conversation with this cellular conversation and trying to bring service to areas that don't have it, and the providers can't economically make the case for. Maybe we can work together to make that make sense. We are also building out our office to make sure we do this in a smart way. I'm very excited. We've got a team of 2 now. We've got 3 more already slated to come on board. Just have 2 interviews going on today to add to the capacity. And then we also have a GIS specialist position open and several grants processing positions available. So if you know people looking for jobs, I know graduations just happened. If you know people looking, we are looking to build capacity and really excited. I mean this when I say a little bit of a smile on my face, but this is a great opportunity to be a part of a huge project. We're going to be rolling out transformational funding and really changing our state across the state. When you look at both the digital equity, the BEAD programming, what we're doing with ARPA, we're going to be doing some great work. So if people want to be a part of something kind of bigger than themselves, that's why I'm here. And I think there's a great opportunity. So if you know people looking, have them go to the DED website and get plugged in with us. We'd love to have them. Just a little snapshot of our timeline. We will roll the broadband grant infrastructure programming, having awards out by late fall. And then the plan is to roll again immediately a second round of that until we can fully exhaust the funding of that programming. And then you can see where the cell tower program lines out in there. Just a little plug, we do our webinars the last Friday of every month. Our next one will be in late June. You can go to the website or just email me. And I think here's my email address and cell phone number. If you'd like to get signed up for those, we'd love to have you on those calls. It really is a great chance. We do questions and answers at the end. Sometimes, as I've done here, I ramble way too long, but we do take questions as much as possible to try to make sure that people are being heard and that we're addressing the issues that you all are seeing. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give you all some of your time back.
Thank you very much for that presentation, BJ. You do have a question from Jeremy from the Federal Reserve Bank. On those positions that you mentioned, do they have to be in Jeff City or can they be remote?
We can be flexible, but we do have some strong guidelines we have to meet. The GIS position probably is the one that could be the most flexible. Some of the grants positions probably need to be in Jeff City.
Okay, thank you. And I see Leslie Scott has a question.
I have so many. First of all, you know, we're hearing about the money that's going to your office and the plan that you're going to have to do. But the money that will be available through the competitive grants program is really quite a ways off. Can you explain that a little bit more? And I know there's no exact timeline from the BEAD and DEA, but just a little short explanation of that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it, especially with the infrastructure piece through IIJA, it does become pretty extended when you think about it. From my perspective, there's going to be a lot of activity going on with our planning, because the way I understand it is we'll have 270 days from the day we get our funding to put together a 5-year plan. But then we're probably looking 2024 before we start really putting that money into the ground, or later. But as much as that's discouraging, the good news is we will be doing the ARPA funding at the same time. So you'll see some infrastructure being funded with our support. the good news about the bead, as I understand it, the call yesterday with NTIA was really good. I think those are open to the public. If anybody else would like to sit in on those, please do. I was really encouraged by this last one because it actually gave more behind the scenes, I thought. And it actually is talking about, like, I think our final plan is actually how do we fill every gap that there is, and not just, hey, this is going to take $1 billion in grant funding, but actually what provider goes in what hole. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm excited that that's where we get to in the end. The conversation of internet for all can become very cliche-y, but if we really are being asked to get to that level, I think you'll see some real change in how we do that. I was interested the other day when they started talking about other funding mechanisms. I'm going too long here again, but competitive grants have gotten us to where we are, which is providers go where the money makes it make sense. At some point, we have to turn that around and start saying, what does it take to go? I always use them as it, but to the Ozarks in central Missouri. I spend time there, so it's not an insult, but what does it take to get to the outsides of Carter County, or the hard to reach areas of Johnson County and other surround, not so far away areas? I think we'll have that opportunity with BEAD, although it's, a year and a half from when we get there.
So speaking of beef, I told you I had questions. Plural. It's my understanding from the NTIA call that I attended is that adoption and digital literacy is allowed, but only if you've already covered all the access.
Yeah,
Did I understand that correctly?
that's the way I took it, is that with BEAD funding, first and foremost is getting access. It can be used for the others. I think you'll probably see, as we've tried to put into our current programming of affordability, promotion, and digital, we will try to put some of those hooks into getting the funding of, hey, you should be, as a provider, taking part in these types of programming. But yes, as far as funding, I think that's going to be left more to the Digital Equity Act, DEA part of it. The good news is that money probably comes before the access money comes.
And when you say provider, BJ, who are you referring to? I'm sorry, just for
well,
clarification.
Across the spectrum of broadband providers. Sorry, it could be your co-ops, your cable companies, it could be your telephone companies. It also could be your municipalities, county governments, and others. Don't lose sight of these programs very clearly favor those types of ownerships, meaning nonprofit, local government, cooperative owned networks. And they make it clear the reason they do is because those types of providers serve everyone and aren't as concerned with profits as the other providers may be. So where those get involved, they will receive priority from our office. It doesn't mean they'll always win, but they will receive prioritization.
Okay, and I ask that because usually the people who attend these meetings are the practitioners and the nonprofits. And so your information was good, but I always tune in to WIIFM, which is what's in it for me. So how would you explain that to the people like me who's, just an everyday nonprofit? How do I either access that funds just based on what you just said? Do I need a partner then with a provider? How does it come to our level?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity for that. The other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about the BEAD program is they were very strong on yesterday's call that these will have to have local community support. So be on the lookout for that. If when that conversation starts happening, make sure you're supporting projects that you want to see supported, and be a part of that conversation. The other that really has opportunity for the digital literacy world, the nonprofits and working on that type, is really through the DEA programming, which we will roll out and be in touch with every one of you all of how are we going to roll out that programming? What do we need to be funding? Where do we need to be focusing? What are the challenges we're facing? And then how do we build that into a statewide plan to address the need across the state? And that conversation will begin in the early fall. I say that meaning I don't have the exact date, but I will assume there will be at least 1 or 2 large statewide meetings
Okay.
with virtual options, and then there will be local meetings as well. Both of those programs require very heavy community involvement. So we are not going to do this from our office and say, hey, look, here's your solution. We are going to engage you all in that process. And then that will be your real opportunity. Not that this is not a great one, but you're going to have a great opportunity then to weigh in on what does that plan look like.
So do we sign up for a newsletter? I'm sorry, Leslie,
Yeah,
I'm coming back to you.
Go
Do
to
we
the,
sign to be in
yeah.
contact with you?
yeah,
Okay.
go to that website, the /ARPA page, sign up for the broadband updates. We will be pushing all of that information to that list, as well as probably the entire DED contact list, just to make sure we're casting as wide a net as possible.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if there's any place for practitioners, digital literacy practitioners or organizations with the ARPA funds, even though the adoption and digital literacy allocations were zeroed out by the legislature, if there was anything there. And then also, as it relates to getting our workforce up and going for this huge push, if you think that there's any place for higher ed and workforce development, and then also just nonprofits in general that are working on maybe thinking of expanding from digital literacy skills to this more advanced training.
On the workforce side, it's not fully fleshed out yet, but our Missouri One Start has some additional funding, and they do workforce training in conjunction with higher education, largely our community colleges. And it is my understanding that they're planning on trying to partner with and fund some workforce development in this direction, knowing, hey, we're going to need a workforce. Let's help get them trained. And I think that is one of their charges. There's multiple in that workforce, but I think the broadband related skills training is definitely a part of that. And that's one of the things that they are looking to flesh out as well, but definitely knowing, hey, we've got a whole bunch coming. We're going to need to have the people ready to do it. So yes, it is part of when we look at the whole universe, trying to make sure we're doing it smart. As far as opportunities, there are, unfortunately, I don't know how we fund the digital literacy pieces with the ARPA funds at this point. There may be opportunities to partner with the providers that are looking to come bring service, because there are pieces of, we have hooks, there's scoring mechanisms for what is your digital literacy plan, what is your technical training plan, those things. They would score very well if they were working with someone to help bring skills to those newly served areas. Definitely with the ARPA funds, just keep in mind there may be opportunities with our BEAD planning to do some pilot programming, see what works there. And in that area for the planning, we may be looking to partner with others as well to make sure we're doing our planning portion in an intelligent manner.
So if an ISP put that in their proposal, would they be able to also put it in their budget, or would they have to pay for that through another funding mechanism?
I think it wouldn't be able to be our reimbursement part of it, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be their contribution to it. Yeah. But if it's not something they're doing, it's something they probably should be doing. That's one of the things we're trying to really change in this conversation is, hey, it's not just about running a line. People have to be able to afford it, and they have to know what they're doing with it. And if those providers aren't open to that now, I think with BEAD, they're going to have to be.
How are you defining affordability?
We have told them that it needs to be affordable within the area that its service is coming. We are also saying that they have to offer a low cost option. We assume ACP, if they're taking part in the ACP program with an ACP eligible product, then that will fill that need. We have said you need to contact locals to prove the local affordability piece. We do have at our hands, there's been some studies about affordability, and we may measure that against those. And we may say, hey, this doesn't reach the criteria when we're then judging applications. Tell me how we should be doing it.
It is a hard nut to crack. I don't know that anybody's really come up with a good way. I'm really interested in those studies, so maybe we can follow up with you and include them in our recap.
They were largely rural. They looked at 2 rural areas, South Central and Northwest, I believe, and went to like the per megabyte cost, and really showed some disparities in what people were charging. You don't look surprised by that.
I am not. You did
There
not
you go.
shock me.
Can I cut in with a quick question? And I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm in my car. This is Tom BJ with PCs for People. I just wanted to add a comment to some of the questions that Ina posed and Leslie. As far as I am aware, and I don't know if Sherry Gonzalez is on this call, but we've got a pretty extensive update from the work being done by Casey Rising about 2 weeks ago. And I'm pretty confident as a result of the work that we do here in the coalition, pretty much anybody that's ever been on a coalition call or works in the Kansas City area with regard to, providing these kind of digital navigation supports, digital literacy training, things like that, they are already being represented in our work that we're doing with some of these regional planning efforts to paint the most comprehensive picture possible that you'll see in Jeff City with respect to our region. So part of what I would want people listening on this call to understand is continue to make you and yourself and your organization visible, and make sure that you use tools like these monthly coalition meetings to make sure we're all aware of what you're doing, like that fabulous presentation Jessica did with Phoenix Family. That's just one key part of the way I think we're responding, BJ, to what you said, that, it comes down to the local community has to be able to identify who are the people doing this work and to be cut into these funding opportunities.
I think that's a great point. I agree completely. When we start doing statewide planning efforts, we're going to rely on you all to talk about who does well, what does well. And we're going to definitely have that be a part of the conversation. The other thing I would really point out is some of these ARPA funds, this all has to be deployed by has to be spent by 2026. We have until 2024 to have it all allocated. Not all of the funds that have been sent out will be spent this year. Some of them may be pulled back. I will say there may or may not be, but there may be another opportunity for some ARPA funding programming in the next legislative session. And that would be an opportunity. And what I'll say is, I was trying to advocate for it, but at the same time advocating for a big chunk of money. We need voices talking about what this cost and the impact of it when it comes to the legislature. They have the appropriation. If we get another shot at this, what I'd say is we really need people advocating for that effort. And it will take multiple voices to reach that.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation, BJ. A lot of good information, a lot of good updates. And it's good to see only 4 months on the job and you're still energized and excited and all that. And you've learned all the acronyms because you were listing them off there.
I get laughed at a lot for speaking a lot in acronyms, and I don't know when it happened, but it must have happened overnight because it didn't. But I will say very much still excited. When the days go quick, it's hard not to be, but I appreciate what you all are doing. And know that in the coming months, we will start doing that planning effort, and we'll be back in touch where we will need from you all as much as you need from us.
Sounds good. And I'm sure you'll get that information to Wendy and she will disperse it to the coalition members. We've talked before about having shovel-ready projects. And so that would be between now and the funding being released, an opportunity for us here on the ground level to make those partnerships and to, connect with people who are probably, likely to get the funding, but where we can partner with them. So hopefully we can get some of that going between now and the fall.
Absolutely. Well, I have to jump. We actually have a job interview coming in now. We're trying to build the team, but I appreciate everybody. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. Don't hesitate. That's what we're here for. So I appreciate what you all do. And let's be in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
So in the absence of Melinda Stanley, I just wanted to have some representation of Kansas. And so here is the website that I believe represents her office. So if you are with us this morning on the Kansas side, if you've not had a chance to review what they are planning in regard to broadband access, here we've got the NDIA information. So go check out this website, the Kansas Department of Commerce. He also just mentioned, and don't get confused as I did initially, between NDIA and then you've got NTIA. So those are two different serving boards with two different missions. But feel free to go and look at what's going on in the state of Kansas. And I'm sure this is what she would have presented on this morning, specifically, I believe, this Affordable Connectivity Program. So I do just want to put that up there as representation for Kansas this morning. So I think now on our agenda, we're on community announcements. So you can raise your hand, I can identify you, and you can make an announcement of something that your organization is engaged with that you would like the other coalitions to know about. All right, let's go with Joe Robertson.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, Joe Robertson. I just wanted to, and I see Leslie's got her hand up. I don't know. I'm actually going to be referencing her and Casey Digital Drive. We are adding ACP internet access signups to our program at Morningstar, where we are doing a lot of rental assistance and utility assistance access programming. And we have a event coming up June 11th, Caring Community Days in Kansas City, where we will be really, as part of the Carnival and Fair, we're also going to be really highlighting that and really try to get a lot of people in to get signed up for ACP and also get some of that rental and utility assistance funds that are out there. So I might put this in the chat.
Is Community Days going to be at Morningstar?
It's going to, yeah, I'll put a link in the chat. So
Okay.
if you know people that might enjoy some carnival fun and also get some assistance, with that to be an opportunity for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Leslie?
Yeah, so just to follow up on what Joe said, we continue to go to community events. And so I would just encourage folks to let us know if you're having something. We'd be happy to come and do ACP sign up and get the word out about ACP, and also the Internet Access Support Program, which can fund that that difference left over after the ACP discount is subtracted. We're seeing, sometimes people get the same plan for $29.99 that someone else has to pay $74.99 for from the same provider. And so, there's just still a lot of need there as it relates to people fitting it in their budget. So there's that. And then Aaron just wanted me to also mention, we've mentioned it a few times over the past 6 months or so, but we've been working on gathering information from a wide variety of sources for regional digital equity plans. So we didn't cover it because I monopolized the question so much and didn't want to add it, but the local plans are, the states are required to take the local plans into consideration as they create their statewide plan. So it's really important to have that local effort done. And we're pretty close to kind of a rough draft on what we're calling, digital equity agenda. So we're going to be looking for input from you all over the next few months. We're involved with what Mark and Casey Rising are doing around this as well, and we'll be working to align all those efforts together. But we are going to want to be working with everyone who's on the ground, doing the work. And really hearing directly and learning about the experiences of people in the community who are in the digital divide. So that's pretty much all I have. Oh, and I do still have flyers. If anybody wants flyers for the ACP, we still do have some flyers that I ordered from the FCC. And I'm happy to bring those over to your office.
Thank you, Leslie. I see April Roy's hand up.
Hello, everyone. April Roy from Kansas City Public Library. I just wanted to let the coalition know that we are excited to be piloting our Chromebook lending program. They're currently available at our Northeast Library and our Southeast Library. We'll be rolling out the larger system-wide Chromebook lending project beginning July 5th. So if you know anybody that wants to check out a Chromebook right now, you can send them to the Northeast branch of the Kansas City Public Library or the Southeast branch. Again, with larger rollout planned on July 5th. We're super excited to be offering 900 Chromebooks to our community for checkout, with an additional 300 available for community partners. So thank you all.
Okay. How long do they get to keep the Chromebook, April?
They check out for 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks.
Potentially, someone could come in and recheck one out if there's one available.
Mhm.
April, I reached out to see if we could get some for the June 11th event, the Link event. And it doesn't look like that there's any availability for those. Is that
That's
300?
It's a different program, Leslie. So we have the ones that April's talking about are for patron checkout. And the ones that you're trying to get, we have another program that we lend out kind of packages of computers. It's the part of the mobile services through outreach. And so I don't know that we'll have enough through April's program to do the event that you're wanting to do, but I think Tech Access might have some laptops that are not going to be ideal, but I think we'll get the job done for the
We
event.
figured it out. I guess it's those 300 available to community partners that I'm specifically asking about.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
so those 300 Chromebooks will be available to check out through our community partners, but they do have to check out individually to a person, each one of them. So I
Yeah.
can't say for a group like we can check out 100 Chromebooks to your organization. We have to have 100 individual people that check those out. And that's because of the funding guidelines, the grant guidelines through the ECF.
No, that clarification makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So it looks like Megan's got some announcements. Did you want me to read in chat or did you want to come on, Megan?
I can definitely say them. I just wanted to post them so we had the textual aspects of them. Hi, everyone. Megan McNaughton from Kansas City Public Library, the Tech Access team. I just put a reminder in the chat. If you or anyone on your team or in your organization does work around digital literacy, consider joining our digital literacy working group. We meet every second Monday of the month from 2 to 3 p.m. over Zoom. Our focus is on developing digital literacy resources and sharing what we have, and making sure that we all can network with each other and find out other people working on digital literacy programs and projects. Feel free to email me with any questions or if you'd like the Zoom link. And then while April was talking, I wanted to put in another shameless plug for the library. Our summer reading program has begun. So if you're looking for an excuse to read and get a beautiful pint glass as a reading surprise for reading 5 books this summer, consider signing up. I put the link in the chat, and we would love to have you join the program and join our legions of readers this summer. And I see your message, Leslie, and I will make sure I resend the link to you.
And also, Joe did post the KC link, Communities Days link in chat. So if you want to check that out and stop by, please click on that. And as usual, Wendy or somebody from the KC Public Library will send out the newsletter next week that recaps all of this information, the events, the links that you need to click on, and the other information about coalition members. And so if you have something going on, you want to make sure that you send that email to Wendy so it can be included in the newsletter and shared with other coalition members. Let's see, Leslie's also making an announcement about, what is this, the dumpster day, undumpster day for PCs for People will be there to accept computers to donate. Also 8 other nonprofits there to accept clothing, household items. So this is the time people are purging, doing your spring cleaning. You've got a place to take it to where it would be recycled or reused or given to somebody who is in need of it. And here it is from Wendy. Send your announcements to digitalinclusion@kclibrary.org. Does anybody have one from your organization at this time that you would like to make? Any other announcements? All right. Well, thank you all for your time. The next meeting date, do you have that, Wendy? Because I think that, it's not a holiday weekend, is it?
We moved it to July 8th.
It was moved to July. Thank you. Thank you. So that was moved to July 8th. And that, again, I'm sure will be in the newsletter that you'll get next week. Just to remind everybody, we will not meet the first Friday in July. However, that second Friday, July 8th. That's all I have. Unless anybody has any other comments. Thank you all for your time. Hope you learned something. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks, Ina. Thanks, everybody.